whenever. Like, yeah.
And take it away, Tom.
Okay, so it's after 7 o'clock, and this is the first meeting of the Stormwater Bylaw Working Group. The purpose, Stormwater Bylaw Working Group was established by the Select Board in 2023. The working group will provide input to the Select Board and the town on the revisions and updates of Article 7 of the General Bylaws, town's Stormwater Bylaw. Stormwater Bylaw Working Group will provide input with feedback to the town manager and select board on updates and requirements of the National Pollution Distribution and Elimination Systems and the DES pertaining to stormwater quality. And to review and make recommendations for amendments to the stormwater bylaw and related to stormwater capacity. So I asked everybody if they had any agenda items. I put together a few just to start up the process. I think first we probably should have a roll call to see who is here and just. And so Kevin Key.
Yep. Yeah.
Joshua Levy. Sue Barber.
Here.
John Sallow.
Here.
Janine Helwig.
Here.
Trip Pace.
Here.
Preston Hall.
Yes, here.
Tom Ryder, I am here. Deb Anderson
Here.
and Joe Prodnick is absent. Okay. So I notice everybody has been introducing themselves during the meeting, but I think maybe it's a good idea to just go around the table. So do you want to start with you?
My name is Kim Donovan. I am a compliance coordinator and a silent participant in tonight's meeting. I am here to take notes and generally organize things. So welcome to everybody. Thank you very much for doing this. And I think that's it.
So Kim is going to be our technical advisor. She's working a lot with NIPT's program. She works assisting us with data engineering, who's one of our consultants that helps us with the stormwater plans. So I'm Tom Ryder, town engineer. So Kim and I work in the same office together. Turn it over to you.
I'm Janine Helwig. I'm a Needham resident in the year for less than 3 years. My background is in water and wastewater engineering. So I thought I would sit on this committee to help out.
Keep doing your thing.
Okay.
I'm Sue Barber, and I'm with the Conservation Commission, representing the Conservation Commission along with Deb.
Okay, I'm Kevin Keen. I'm chair of the NEAM Select Board, and I don't have a lot of expertise necessarily in water. I use it every day, though. But and I was interested in this with all the August 8th floods and all the neighborhood meetings.
John Salo, environmental and water resources engineer for my career. Worked with a national environmental engineering company for over 40 years on everything water, including stormwater. Since retiring, I'm serving on a number of technical advisor on a number of boards, one of which is probably pretty relevant to what we're doing, and that's the Charles River Watershed Association, which is already connected to a number of the staff people here. So that could be a good link to help garner some information. I am a professional engineer also.
I'm Josh Levy, member of the select board.
Preston Hall, I'm a local realtor. My career before selling real estate, I was an engineer / architect, so experience in hydrology and designing stormwater attenuation systems, all that kind of really fascinating stuff.
Trip Pace, I'm a local builder. I'm a licensed builder here in town.
Debbie Anderson, Director of Conservation and staff from the Conservation Commission.
And I believe we do have one person online now, or two people actually. So Justin, our Assistant Town Engineer, and Ross Donald has joined us. So Ross, I'm gonna give you permission to, I think, although I can't seem to do that right now. Let me do this. To give you access to speak. There we go. There we go. Ross, you should be on audio. Can you just introduce yourself and let us know?
Yeah, okay. Well, my name is Ross Donald. I live at Chambers Street, and as I understand it, we're one of the 10 or so kind of wet spots and might get some special attention. I have been to the Charles River Watershed Association meetings, and I do like the idea of them identifying some principles and ways of handling some water issues that might be translatable, if you will, to other areas. So, and I'm very interested in having the housing authority look at being a strong advocate for proper water management and hydrology and so forth, and make it part of their policies and principles, and actually demonstrating some of the best ways of handling these things. So glad to be here. Thank you.
Great, thank you, welcome. Justin, do you want to do a quick introduction?
It's probably with this kid, Zoom.
He might not be able to, he might just be listening in. Okay, that's okay.
Oh, hi, everybody.
Okay, there he
Hey,
is.
Justin.
Hey, everyone. Sorry, I'm multitasking right now. Hi, Justin Saviano, Assistant Town Engineer.
Great.
So
Alrighty.
Justin is definitely another resource. He's been out at a lot of the sites, as, same with Mike Retzky for the August 8th storm events. So Mike is in the,
Mike, do you want to introduce yourself as well, please?
Mike Gretzky, Water Sewer Drain Superintendent, County Leader. Just here to listen.
he's here to listen. Okay.
He's here to bear witness to the genius.
Right.
All right. So we can take these items in order or out of order, but the next item I have is organization structure. I think we kind of went over mission and purpose already. So, and we can go back to the mission, purpose, and requirements, but if we feel like we should set up the organizational structure, vote in a chair, or we can wait till the next meeting to do so, but if we don't vote in the chair this meeting, we'll probably have to collaborate on what we want for the agenda for the next meeting. So does anybody want to suggest any nominations? Or we can have us think about it.
Yeah. Kevin, do you want to be chair? I would nominate you.
Sure, if no one else wants to do it.
Anybody else?
Anyone else?
I second.
All right, thank
Dang
you.
it.
As far as the chair's requirements, would you want to suggest a vice chair or just leave it at chair?
Yeah, no, definitely, right. There should be a little depth, right?
Yeah,
All right.
so we all gonna vote for,
Oh, yeah.
you seconded?
Yeah, sexy to
So
vote.
all in favor of Kevin Keane as chair?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you. All right. All right.
It was a hard one,
So vice chair,
campaign.
Okay, do I hear a nomination for vice chair?
anyone? Look at Josh.
John Saylor.
Sure. I hear, okay.
Do what?
Okay,
John?
I'm good. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Okay,
Did we have to second that? Who did?
so Tripp seconded.
Oh, look at
So
that.
Sue made the motion.
Congrats. Yeah, thank you.
All right. My thought is. Okay, back up.
I'm sorry, that's my. Oops. Everybody is muted. I don't know how to not
That's strange. Yeah.
make that mute.
Tonight, there's somebody.
Is it the owl coming through the owl? To
Is your computer muted?
Try again.
Okay,
Okay,
no echo. Okay,
great.
Ducky Dewdrops.
all right. All right, so now that we have a chair, should I hand off the reins to you, or you want,
Sure, I'll
or
try
you want me
to.
to continue?
You can keep going.
Okay.
Doing very well.
Okay. All right, so I'll finish this up. I believe Kim had put together some packages for you guys to take a look at.
Thank you.
In the packages or the current town Needham stormwater bylaw, the draft 2018 stormwater regulation, which I don't think it saw the light of day. I think some people might have reviewed it at that time. But those were being drafted together when the bylaw was first approved back in 2019. She also added, what else did you add?
So in the packets I have, on the left side is just a basic overview of what the committee is, who's on the committee, and just general information, not a big deal, just everything that's on the website, not anything detailed. The second two documents you'll see in there is the stormwater bylaw as it exists today,
Article 7.
Article 7, and that is in our general bylaws. That's number 7 of our general bylaws. The Article 7, and then behind that is the regulations that we drafted but never published. We never finalized them. Basically, because when the 2016 permit came out, the stormwater bylaw was drafted without a real clear understanding or a full scope of what the EPA was going to or would be requiring of us over the 5-year term and permit. It was a vast difference from anything they had originally given to us. So what was in our stormwater bylaw was enough to meet the requirement by EPA, but it really wasn't thought out in terms of what's happening in the field because we didn't know yet. So the draft of the regulations was our attempt to clarify what was in the bylaw, but given that we weren't really clear on what the bylaw needed to contain or hold or control, it was difficult to then have regulations to then speak to the bylaws. So in order to make this a little bit more, number one, user-friendly and understandable by residents, builders, anybody else who would read our bylaw, we're hoping to have the bylaw as it stands right now edited for better clarity and better understanding and a little bit more narrow in scope so that we move the information that is in our general bylaw into the regulations where appropriate. So in other words, the way the bylaw is written right now, it is sort of a combination of bylaw / regulations format. It's kind of all put together. It's not really distinct of what's a bylaw versus what's a regulation. So we would like to have them as 2 separate documents, but at minimum, the bylaw needs to be reviewed for content and what it has in it as it stands right now. We did have an assessment and an analysis done of our bylaws, specifically the stormwater one, based on our required NIPD's permitting year 4 requirements. We had to do an analysis of bylaws across the board to check and see if we are meeting or we are below, meeting, or exceeding expectations of use of green infrastructure and other options for stormwater management. That evaluation.
Stormwater quality or capacity?
Quality.
Just
Quality, yeah, not the capacity.
Okay.
So the results of that evaluation came back with a bunch of different recommendations and things that needed to change. The only major thing that needs to change immediately is that we need to change some of the wording in our bylaw to be more specific in its description of when we're requiring people to utilize the bylaw, not utilize, to comply with the bylaw. So in other words, right now we have, if you put in a structure that is over so many square feet and adds space to your property, that's when the bylaw takes effect. When in actuality, what the EPA has stated or has mandated us is that it needs to be any land disturbance over a certain amount. So land disturbance doesn't necessarily mean you're putting a building on it. It can mean you're putting a fencing. You can put whatever it is that you're putting on, landscaping,
So it
anything like
doesn't have to
that.
be impervious area.
It doesn't technically.
Okay.
I'm not saying we would require that, but we need to kind of word it so that if in the future we would do that, it's available to us and it doesn't prevent
It's not
us from
stuck
doing
in the
this.
bylaw.
Correct, correct.
So I had a question, I guess it's part of the history discussion. So is the since the regulation, the 2018 draft, you said never saw the light of day. So that sort of remained as an internal document.
It didn't
Working,
really.
the working committee may have looked at that back then, but they stuck with the bylaw. They decided not to go with the regulation at the time.
So the bylaw is the law of the land in terms of what's being followed related to stormwater and development.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to understand, is there anything besides EPA's comments that have precipitated the need to update the bylaw? For example, has there been a track record and feedback from construction people, real estate developers, community? So is that part of it, or maybe ask generally, how has it been received?
There's been some confusion as far as land disturbance and what are they supposed to do if you have a lot that actually has more than 4,000 square feet of impervious area and they decide to do an addition, are they just required just to take care of this little addition, or are they supposed to deal with the whole site as a whole? That's one of the concerns. Issues as far as regrading lots, discharges off people's property, directing to their neighbors. If it's under 4,000 square feet, that's considered that it meets the requirements. If they just either take care of the little addition that they do or provide an inch infiltration. Go ahead.
My understanding is that the stormwater bylaw was written just with the intention of satisfying NIPD's and being compliant with respect to water quality, and really did not speak to the quantity of water, stormwater runoff, and things like that.
Correct.
So when is it triggered?
So that's a gap and something that you're gonna try to deal with through this update.
Yep.
And with climate change, we have to address capacity.
Correct,
Because
yes.
it seemed to me in reading the two documents that the regulation had a lot more detail in it in terms of technical guidance on calculating flow rates.
The
all
regulations do.
references to, all of the engineering stuff. So it seemed to me that there was some value in having, whether you call it a regulation or a guidance document or something that supports the regulation. So as well as just updating the bylaw, is there any thought or benefit in having sort of a companion document that would really provide the detail?
I think that's what we are suggesting too, is like it'll make it easier for the people reviewing permits if they actually have not just a very strict way of handling through a bylaw, have the bylaw with interests of the act, and then have the regulations as actually, this is how you meet the bylaw. The other issues in regards to the bylaw is if there is a problem with the site, such as high groundwater or just not suitable material to infiltrate, then there's no clarity on how to handle that. There's no soil testing to begin with, so a builder could start putting in a system and then realize they're into ledge or into groundwater. And now they don't meet the bylaw, so what can they do? Well, the bylaw says you can connect to the town's drainage system if it's in front of you. And if it's not in front of you, then you can contribute to a program where a fee will be assessed, which is $0. And that will go into a coffer for us to do stormwater in the future, which is nothing, zero. So that has to
Okay.
be developed.
Yeah.
It never has been, so. So the issue is when, and then I think lastly is that a surveyor can provide this information according to the bylaw. So where the infiltration units are going and the capacity. So
Okay.
that, in my mind, is not the surveyor's responsibility. They're surveying property line to structure. Designs go to civil engineers. So you need to determine whether, meet the capacity and make sure you're not flooding up the neighbor at the same time, and treating the stormwater before it goes into the water system.
Okay.
It's kind of that in a nutshell.
Like, do regulations have the same force of law, or is that just what, like? You
Yeah,
can-
so, well, the bylaw is acted on town meeting, so
Yeah.
it's kind of like, how do you vary a code that town meeting approves?
Right.
So the regulation would be, like, if it's not, if you have a very code, you go to a board and say, it doesn't meet the requirements, but this is how we're meeting the best interest of the regulation, whether it can be varied.
Okay.
So it's to go back to town meeting. But the bylaw right now is so open that it's not really clear.
Okay. And then also, what's the plan? We're going to town meeting with the revised bylaw.
So I have that we are to meet with the select board,
Okay.
town manager, and the select board, it says.
To provide recommendations for an updated
Okay.
bylaw. So I don't think
Okay.
we're required to make or you're required, I'm not here. You're required to make the actual document. I think you're just assessing what is recommended to be either
Okay.
removed, adjusted, or added to what we currently have as a bylaw.
I think it's a working group, though, it would probably be in our best interest to have something ready to draft, or if we meet with the select board, then
Right.
this is what we're recommended, and we can continue with the draft. And you approach the board that way.
Sure.
Is there a schedule when that has to be
Yeah.
accomplished?
Good question.
Yesterday.
Yeah,
Okay.
we were searching for that.
Originally, it was intended that this would have gotten off the ground at the end of last year when the select board decided they wanted to make a working group for it, gathering a group of people who were, number one, qualified, able, and willing to participate was a long, arduous process. So as noted, we're starting in July. So therefore, the original, I think, October town meeting was when they wanted to give information to, seems a tad bit unrealistic to me.
Yeah.
And I think you guys should, again, I'm not here, I'm silent, so that's just a little birdie saying, I would recommend you recommend to the board that you are going to take longer to do this and have them
Oh, yeah.
extend it. I would love to say that you guys could review an entire document in 2 months, but likely.
Because I think our appointments are October or November or something like that.
Yeah, we would just need to request an
So can
extension
that
of your
easily be
appointments. Yeah,
extended?
yeah. Because we didn't get started until July, I can't imagine they wouldn't.
Kevin's got some inside cloud items.
He can pull some
I
strings.
can convince Josh, I hope.
But if we want to aim for something in May, for the May town meeting, I'm thinking we should have something kind of finalized by February.
Exactly,
Right. The calendar moves.
yes.
How often do we meet?
Well, that's the next question or the next point of order, I guess, on the thing of you guys to decide.
Well,
So
that's one of the questions, and also like group communications, how we want to upload stuff.
Right.
Do we want to create a team site where we can upload bylaws that we see from the existing communities around the area
Okay.
for review.
Do you guys have
Saturday
Teams or what do you use? Do you use
Or-
Google?
Or
Google
OneDrive
Docs.
or something
No
like
one
that.
uses Google
SharePoint.
Docs. No one likes.
SharePoint.
Yeah. Well,
We can figure this out.
yeah, but yeah, otherwise,
We could just email them around too. But
Yeah.
servers,
yeah,
kind
can
of
you,
set up like a OneDrive account.
Yeah,
or
set up a
set
OneDrive. It can-
SharePoint. You guys
yeah,
use
can you get
SharePoint?
the link? How's that
Yeah.
work?
Yeah,
they get
it
a
works
link.
that way.
I'm fine opening it.
Okay.
You guys all use Teams. That's-
You'll
Whatever
love
you
it.
guys decide, you know, that's fine by
Teams
me,
is
but I think
wonderful and you'll love it. It's fabulous.
Mm.
It's terrific. Nothing from the peanut gallery. It's delightful.
There are other
It will be
groups.
great.
There are other
Thanks,
groups that
Ken.
are offering to come in to do presentations too.
Who-
or
I'm sorry,
what-
who is?
There are other groups like the
Okay.
Charles River Watershed Association or Beta. They are offering to come in to present what other towns have done too, so you can take a look.
That'd be great.
See. We can schedule something like that.
So was there a reason when it was first drafted that we didn't just go with a consultant or someone to put it together for us?
I wasn't here at the time it was drafted, so I don't know that for sure. My feeling is that it was probably somewhat under the gun based on what I've read or seen in documentation. I've only been with the town since 2019, so forgive me for making presumptions, that based on documentation submissions and those things, it was kind of a quick turnaround to get something in and on the books and at least complying with the permit. And at the time, we thought we had a pretty good handle on it. But what we thought was what was intended was not actually what was happening or intended. So it sort of has morphed a little bit. It was also changed by some amendments and changes that the EPA sent out or adopted. What, 2 years into the permit?
Right.
Okay.
So before 2016, I mean, we had our NIPD's permit. And I think the thought was that everything in that NIPD's permit was good enough. So we didn't need to do bylaw regulation. And then as the permit, 2016, the permit was coming out, I think it was a scramble to, let's get our bylaw enacted so we can take some credit. One of the conditions that at least our consultant is saying is that there are a few things in our bylaw that we cannot get credit for phosphorus removal because there's no operation maintenance signed up requirement. There is operation maintenance, but we need to actually get the document.
On private property.
I'm sorry, for private properties, yes.
So we get credit for stuff that's on our public properties because we can document and maintain it.
Right.
We just have no mechanism at the moment of how to require a private resident to report that they have infiltration on their property and or that they are maintaining it and it is still functioning as designed and intended. And in some cases, it's even to the point of the house has been bought and sold 3 times over since the infiltration unit was put in place and they don't even know it's there.
Yeah.
And
So,
we found that for the capacity issues that on some of the sites that you visited,
Yeah.
where they didn't even know they had a dry well right next to their bulkhead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was this bylaw pretty much done under town council?
No, there was a committee. I don't believe the town council was nominated.
But there wasn't a consulting group.
No. I don't
It was
believe so.
mostly Janet and Tony.
Janet Tony, Lloyd Kramer was
Okay.
on
Was
it.
Yeah. As
I
far as
do have that
professional.
record. I have some of that record information. If I think that's worth it for me to.
I was just curious. And just another quick question. Does Wellesley have a complete stormwater bylaw at this point?
I believe they have a bylaw and
curious.
a regulation. It doesn't trigger all the laws, right? Trent, would you know that by any chance?
What was the question?
Preston, about Wellesley's?
I'm not familiar with Wellesley. I know Newton does, it just enacted what you guys were speaking about prior, about the O&M. Here.
They have a requirement that you record. at the
Yeah,
registry of
you're
deeds.
putting in deed restrictions, basically, which.
The notice.
You know,
Yeah.
sure, that you're putting in something in somebody's private property, but, yeah, it's an interesting issue.
It's a difficult topic to address, and we've
Yes.
found an issue, we've found it difficult. Even if we had a great way to find the information or get the information, record it and require it and things like that, just say, in a perfect world that happens, we also need to have the staff to maintain that list and credit people for the fact that that's
Yeah, I mean,
happening and track
the-
it and
The
whatever. So,
as-built recorded with the building department are much better than they used to be.
right, exactly.
I think maybe Tony might have had Elisa go through our permits to see which ones had infiltration at one
Okay, yeah,
point.
right. Yeah, that were jurisdiction for.
And that's for quality, not capacity too. All this was just on.
That's just water quality,
Just
not
quality.
capacity, not
So
capacity.
conservation may be reviewing it for capacity as well, because you have to meet the 210 and 100-year storm events. Stormwater check off is there,
Mhm.
where,
But he might have been compiling that information or something towards this goal, perhaps. I just remember Elisa going, "You want me to do what?" You know, so.
Exactly, yes.
I'm still trying to understand our role. Because you asked about, is there a consultant? So I'm trying to understand whether we're just a sounding board for things that are being proposed. Are we supposed to be working on stuff to create things? You've got a stormwater consultant, but I'm not sure what they're doing. So it sure makes a big difference in terms of our mission, sort of the nitty gritty of what how this is gonna go forward and end up with a deliverable at the end.
our stormwater consultant is mainly dealing with the town's infrastructure on how to meet our permit. MS4 permit, how we're gonna treat phosphorus. So we do have a plan in place, we do have a capital. And I think it goes out like 20 years on every year, we're gonna do evaluation of a basin. Design of an improvement for phosphorus removal and construction. So we have 3 items that we have to do every year, so we have to choose a basin, we have 16 basins in town. And so we're one by one, we are trying to find where we can make improvements, treat stormwater, design it and construct it, and then go to the next one, and then so our consultant is not handling the private stuff. However, we have the full NIPD's permit where we have to reduce phosphorus, and we can take credit for private or private work that comes into the public. We can take credit for that as long as it meets certain requirements. And operation maintenance is one of them.
But the creating of a new ordinance or a revised ordinance, the staff, you and others are gonna prepare that, create it. We're all gonna review and react to it.
So basically what we're looking for is for this group to look at the current bylaws, see where there are areas where you feel maybe, missing holes and unclear, something of that nature. And then also taking into consideration the recommendations we received over the analysis, any lessons learned that we've gotten from the EPA or just work from the guys in the field, seeing what's actually out there and what's happening. What ways could we maybe grow, strengthen, or improve our bylaw as it currently stands today? I would love it if somebody would, jump in on the structure of it, because the structure of it drives me bananas. But the overall goal of this committee is basically just to recommend what pieces of those recommendations that we've received from whatever source the select board should consider as part of a new working bylaw. So even not necessarily creating a new bylaw, but maybe giving recommendations and doing the research and the listening to the other groups and all those things and making a determination as to which ones are most valid and most valuable to Needham. Does that answer your question better?
Kind of, but it sounds like we're gonna get briefed on what you kind of just described. I mean, number one is there a comment letter from EPA that sort of lists the things that they said needed to be changed? Is that
The
a
EPA
document?
has not told us that anything needs to be changed. The EPA has just given us different mandates within our permit that we have to meet, that we have or have not been able to based on what our current bylaw says.
Okay, so we're revising that.
So is there some documentation that explains that?
Yeah, I mean, I could find information for you. I can definitely provide with you
I'm
on
just
our,
trying to understand the background of
Yep.
what's sort of motivating and what are the things that need to be
in addition
addressed.
to, yep, in addition to that, our webpage holds a NIFTY's compliance documents page on it, which has on it any historical annual reports that we've ever given to the EPA over our NIFTY's program and what we do here in Needham. It also holds within it our stormwater management plan, our soon-to-be phosphorus control plan once it goes through its final phase, and our illicit connection elimination detection program. So there are a list of, I think, 5 documents total under that site, that sub-site. And anything in there is stuff that is currently happening in town here now. So we just need to make sure that what is there and what is currently happening and how we're operating our NIFTY stormwater program is reflected in our bylaws and how we anticipate that would work going forward.
Does the NIFTY's permit stay constant?
Nope. So
Mm-hmm.
it essentially changes every 5 years. The NIFTY's permit we are currently operating under is the 2016 NIFTY's because EPA is a little behind schedule in releasing the next one. Now you say 2016 permit, that means 2021 should have been the last year. That's not quite how it worked for them because it did only become effective in 2018.
Yeah.
The 2016 technically became effective in 2018. Regardless, it has expired. It's been expired for the past year and a couple of months. So they could be sending us a new one any day now with changes of nobody knows. They have not shared any sneak peeks or anything like that.
Sorry, how does that work? Is that a document that's entered into an agreement with the town, or is that? Okay.
Nope.
With the file.
We have to file a notice of intent to be a part of the NIFTY's program and reap the benefits of having the NIFTY's program, but also so the EPA sends out that the permit is available and you can apply for it essentially. So it's supposed to happen potentially every 5 years. So the thought process is that the working group should also be every 5 or so years because we should be looking at our laws and regulations to make sure that they're constantly meeting that. Again, this is the first, I want to say, official permit process that they've kind of gone through under what's called the NIFTY's program. That would be, I won't say valid because that's not the right word I'm looking for, but the most, and this is the most structured one that they've had going forward, up to date, to this date. Losing my words, I'm sorry. Going forward, every 5 years, this is me, I have no idea why. Every 5 years, we potentially would see a new permit and see potential permit changes. Whether or not our bylaw needs to be changed every 5 years is not necessarily the point or going to happen. It just means we need to review it to make sure that anything we have in there is not against what the permit is requiring us to do or is prohibiting us to do something that the permit needs us to do.
But then separate from NIFTY's is the question about capacity.
Correct. Yes. Yes. Capacity and quality are two
Right.
separate but related topics.
Right.
So while we're trying to address the quality parts in the NIFTY's in the stormwater bylaw, we also want to be able to support what we need to do for quantity as well.
Right. And my sense is on the capacity issue, we should take a much more expansive view. There just seems to be a lot of feeling in town that properties are built that don't manage, can't manage. and people want at a complete loss. So that's why I will look for this committee to sort of come up with some solutions that could avoid what a lot of people are feeling.
There are a lot of different ways to do that. I mean,
Right.
it doesn't have to be all at once. I don't think it. Kevin and I had a brief conversation, like we could identify a couple things that could help put that in for a warrant in May. And then if there are more things, this or a different group could look at those later. We don't have to do it all at once, right?
Correct. Yeah, no, I wouldn't look, well, again, I'm actually not here, but I wouldn't be looking for sweeping changes on something. What I'm thinking, or what we're hoping, is that this will be more of a support function to whatever we need to do in the future, because nobody knows what climate change is gonna result in for our town and for our
Right.
community. So it needs to be strong enough to be specific, but it needs to be malleable enough to be expandable, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And it's a constant review process. I think it's just generally, I come from the private sector, so I find it odd in municipal that review processes is not like a documented time type thing. So to say, we would recommend, for instance, I'm not saying it, but saying at the end, going to the select board and saying, we recommend you have a review every 3, 5, 7, whatever the time frame you deem as appropriate years to review and make sure that you are still meeting or exceeding expectations or requirements for what you have to do to meet the NIPD's permit. But also at the same time, reviewing it to make sure it still fits with the needs of Needham. Because leaving a bylaw static is, dependable and great, but it doesn't grow with the problem, and our problems kind of tend to grow faster than our bylaws.
I personally rather change the regulation than have to change the bylaw, so if we make it.
Well, and that's the
So
thing
you
too,
want to
if you
keep the
make,
bylaw general enough that it can
Exactly.
keep up with the changes.
right, and that way the regulations would be what you change, and you don't have to wait for a town meeting in October or May in order to get something changed. You're now just changing a regulation or something to fit a general bylaw.
I think if that's the structure, there's a lot that has to be added to the bylaw.
And subtract it too. right?
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
But if there's nothing in the bylaw right now about capacity,
Correct.
so I think that would be things that.
Yeah, and making the suggestion of putting something in there regarding capacity would also, to me, I don't live in Needham, so I don't know, but I would think as a resident, I would feel better about stormwater management if I knew capacity was also being addressed. Whereas right now, stormwater management is more a quality
Right.
issue, which unless you're going swimming in the Charles, you don't really care what the quality of the water is at the moment if you're trying to,
Right.
bucket out your
sandbagging,
basement.
yeah.
Yeah, if you're trying to
And-
bucket out your basement from a storm.
Right.
But you've got a lot of things that are dealing with quantity in your master plan,
Correct.
other planning activities, the capital improvement program, the things, Tom, that you were talking about that are going on, but those are really not embodied in any kind of bylaw. They're just common sense things that you're doing.
Some of it's permit related. We have to show that we're moving certain amount of pounds of phosphorus.
Right.
So that's
That's the
how
quality.
our permit is structured, is that we are gonna be looking at a basin every year, trying to reduce phosphorus in that basin and then move to the next one.
How many basins?
16.
16.
Yeah.
So basically, Needham is an enormous area of land. So our premise, or the premise, I shouldn't say our, because I wasn't here at the time, but the premise was to break it down into smaller pieces so it's more manageable. So the whoever, I don't know, the powers that be that decided what it would be, broke it into 16 different what we call sub watersheds. And each one of those sub watersheds is scheduled to be reviewed, analyzed for things like where you can put BMPs and other things to help with phosphorus removal, but at the same time, speak to maybe help with flooding, help with other quantity control items, but can also quantify how much phosphorus can be removed, but basing that on a little bit more in-depth analysis of what is the soil type in that, because the soil type you have in one area of Needham is not necessarily the soil type you have in another.
Right.
So drainage issues can be vastly different for somebody in the same town. But our bylaw is not really, doesn't really address that. Like if you live on a ledge versus you live in a soil that absorbs water like a sponge, great, but the infiltration system you have in one is not gonna help you in another. But how do you get there?
Do we have a map for that?
Yes, I can provide a map.
Yes.
Need to see.
There are actually a couple good ones on the website.
That map, I think the subwatershed map, I believe the subwatershed map should be in the stormwater management plan, if I'm not mistaken. It's
Yeah.
in one of those 4 documents, I can guarantee you, but they all look like one document to me at this point.
Did you want the soil map or the basin map?
The subwatershed map,
There's the NPDS permit on the website.
Seems to me
the permit itself, yes.
it's on the EPA's website for sure.
It is on the EPA's website, but we do have it on, I don't know if we have it posted on the website. I don't know that we have it posted on the website. It is on the EPA, but I can send you a link to the, our permit.
Does it really have something about removing pathogens?
Yes, yeah.
That's crazy.
What is on our website and what you can see in that
Right over here.
stormwater,
I mean, that's one of our sites we removed pathogens. Very good.
Tell me how you're gonna measure that.
what,
Baseline samples, dry and wet weather samples we've been doing.
Wow.
what we do have on that site is, all of our NIPD's permit annual reports that we have done since 2019. That is on that page, so you can see each and every one of them and the comments, and in that final document, it also lists what is that requirement for that year? What were the things that we were required to do by the permit for that year? It's also important to note that Needham took sort of an original approach to it, breaking it down into the 16 watersheds and trying to be a little bit more specific. It's not the way that NIPD's, the EPA's permit is written, and not the way they calculate some things. We do have a request into the EPA, which we have not heard back from them, as to how we calculate what our phosphorus load responsibility would be versus what they think it should be. There's obviously much more general and applicable to the wider majority, so we gave them data based on what is happening in Needham.
So I want to make sure I understand, you mean there's a disagreement about what the baseline is?
It's not a disagreement, it's just more of a, so if they say they're saying, well, based on what we have for information, you need to remove 600 pounds of phosphorus, which is a huge amount. We're saying we feel that based on the information that we're giving you, providing and doing, our baseline should be more like 570. So not hugely different, but can make an enormous difference for meeting those milestones and being in compliance with that permit.
So it sounds like communications are a little slow.
Yes. I'll go with yes.
All right.
So next step forward, regards to, I mean, I guess what would be helpful for presentations for this group? Doing a summary of the existing bylaw that we have, doing a presentation where, where we are in history, and then build in other presentations through, Charles River Watershed Association, data. So you kind of see like, over the last several years with the towns, like I did a presentation with Select Board several months ago. Basically how the stormwater bylaw has affected DPW. What do we see for permits coming in, which is, we don't see a permit, it goes through the building department. The building department checks a box, 1 inch, and then we have a street permit inspector who takes a look. Do they show infiltration? Check. That's it.
And we've recently had issues in conservation about how consultants are reading our existing bylaw compared to our Conservation Commission wetlands bylaw, and those not jiving with each other, and
Right, sometimes 1 inch is not enough.
Hmm.
And
well,
they're
just
saying that 1
whether
inch
it's
is the bylaw.
required, whether it's not required, just definitions, basic definitions that are missing.
Mhm.
So we've kind of run up against that recently.
Yeah.
So we can set something up like that. We can,
Yeah.
we can reach out to the Charles River or Sharon Vader, see if there's an opportunity for them to come in and talk.
Yeah.
If that's, if you're on the board,
Would Joe want us to talk to and just like what building inspector, what he's seeing out there?
so Joe cannot attend this meeting, but
Right, but next time we should-
he, we can have.
He's
that.
part of the committee.
Yeah,
He should
so
be
we'll
here next
just-
time, yeah.
Continually pick his brain.
So, not that I want to be motherly, but did we determine how frequently we'd like to meet, when we'd like to meet, and those things? Because then I think it naturally goes into the conversation of what topics do you think you want to address next time? And then also then following that, what topics would you like to hear more about? Presentations or otherwise? Or want me to shut up completely?
So what do you think, once a month or every 2 weeks?
I'd say every 2
You should be here
weeks.
every week.
Yeah, I agree.
We have a lot to do. Up to you.
Every 2, what do you think?
2's fine. I mean, it could be a challenge for the summer, but
Yeah.
for people with schedules, but
So was 7 o'clock chosen because
It was chosen because it was after working hours, so if anybody was working and construction or anything like that, they were out and had time to go home and eat dinner. I don't
I
know.
didn't
that-
get to go home and eat dinner.
I didn't either. I actually came in
I've been here since 8
while
o'clock.
my husband was making steak on the grill. So, yeah, I know.
I'm okay with coming in earlier. I know that Tuesdays is some time place to later because it's summer Fridays, is that true?
Yes, yes, it is during the
That's a
summer.
better day.
Yes, but it's totally up to you what you would like for timing.
6
4
o'clock
hours.
works is, I mean, it's a crunch from 5 to 6, but in early, out early, but,
We do 6:30.
And Mondays. I assume.
Sure.
Mondays are the best for you?
So
I
bi-weekly?
just, that was a question. It's fine,
Bi-weekly?
it's fine with me.
work, 6:30?
By month.
that's fine with me.
Do we want to keep Mondays, especially what happens if it's a holiday week is my
Ah.
question.
We
so-
skipped that week.
That's totally fine.
Yeah,
Is there a day you stay later, Deb?
Hmm?
Is there a day you stay later to summer Fridays? Is that just a day?
Yeah, Deb, wait.
No, so, well, we stay late on Tuesdays.
Yeah, that's, I was
Tuesdays
gonna
were-
suggest Tuesdays for that reason.
Yeah, Tuesdays we're here till 6, right?
some
Select board
Tuesdays
meets
don't.
on Tuesdays.
Yeah. Every other, but yeah, could it alternate?
I mean, we're not meeting over the summer very frequently. So Tuesday, the 16th.
So we did Tuesday, the 16th,
So
6:30.
Tuesday nights.
So we're doing Tuesdays and not
Well,
Mondays?
I don't know, you guys discuss, what do you feeling?
I can go Tuesday.
Sue, you can't do Tuesday?
I can do Tuesday.
Tuesday,
Thank you.
Tuesday.
That's good for you.
Yeah.
So you don't have to.
I'm
be here.
already here late anyway, so.
Yeah, that's why I suggested it, because
Yeah.
obviously everybody works this building till 6, right?
Mhm,
So
at
what,
least for the summer.
what time on Tuesdays?
6:30.
I would ask that we keep it to like an hour.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, no, just,
All right, we should.
So length? 1 hour. And time is 6:30.
okay.
There needs to be some other way to the calendar.
Beginning the 16th.
16th, Tuesday.
Beginning the 16th of July.
And that's gonna be every other.
We can start with every other, so we can set a schedule for, through August maybe, and then.
Sure.
And then.
Yeah, and we can reassess at the end of the summer if that's, if you feel like you're accomplishing a whole lot and don't need to meet as frequently, you can always make that less.
Right, and generally this
Or
room,
there may be information overload where we
Right.
need.
We will try to make
more
sure that this
time
one
to
is available.
digest.
so up to the 16th, then we're on to the,
I will send out an email with the dates
The
and
6th, okay.
times and the locations for you,
great.
so you can
Can we-
just.
Can we
download them.
kind of review each in terms of setting the next date? Because my schedule is just very variable. So
Not acceptable.
locking into a specific time for the next 2 or 3 months is difficult. for me
Not
to do.
acceptable. Cancel all your social engagements. We are it.
Sorry, I got baseball games.
I hear you. The option is always, we will always have it as a Zoom call as well. So if you can't physically be here for any reason, there is the online option. It does not require everybody attend every single meeting. Obviously, you would like to, and I will do my best to try and capture every comment and statement in the meetings for notes, as long as you allow me to, and kind of post that up with it for meeting minutes, so you can kind of follow along.
The only date is August 13th, where we have a select board meeting. So that's on the.
Well, you're gonna leave.
Yes, sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you just reschedule? Just kidding.
Maybe we could do that Monday, that week instead.
Yeah, could we pivot, if we couldn't do it Tuesday, could we pivot to Monday, anyone?
As long as we give 48 hours notice
Right.
and.
Oh, right,
post
that's
the
good.
agenda.
And why did we move away from Monday? Was that-
Because we already, because
Because
during the
Tuesday-
summer, Tuesdays is a longer workday for
Okay.
for DPW anyways, or for the town.
If it's, I don't, if you wanna stick with Mondays,
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
not
have
gonna
a. I
complain too
don't care.
much.
I'm flexible.
Mondays?
We could even make it Wednesday that week, maybe. Due to the select board.
If it's Monday, someone's buying me dinner that,
I'll make you something good.
and my kids' dinner, 'cause they keep texting me,
Right.
so
I make a good special.
I go with that.
We'll have water.
Okay.
You know what?
And bread. I didn't water.
All right, so I'm sorry, are we back to, we can reconsidering Mondays?
I like Mondays.
Sue really likes Mondays. And if it's a
Yeah,
holiday, you
yes,
skip. it.
I really like
Monday
Mondays.
I'm totally flexible.
It's a Monday day.
All right,
Mondays, got it.
so rather than,
So not Tuesday, but Mondays.
And if it is a holiday, we're skipping that week. Is that correct?
yes, which would be possibly Labor Day.
I'll get dinner for you, Deb. Okay, I promise.
So we're doing the 15th then, rather
So the
than
15th,
So the first one would be the 15th, correct?
6:30,
that looks better for me.
6:30.
6:30, I like. Then presumably the 29th would be the next one.
So the 15th is the first one.
So the next step, I'm just wondering, the first step of how to tackle this.
To me, the first step is everything to review what the bylaw is
Right.
and just kind of jot down what your first impressions are. That's how I would tackle it, but again, everybody has their own
Okay,
process.
So we're actually looking more, I mean, I have read through it,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
I did my homework.
Yeah.
So we're actually looking more for capacity here.
We're looking for places to add information or add rules around capacity. However, we're also looking for ways in which the structure of the way the bylaw is written right now, to me, is very haphazard. So I guess I would say, if you look at other towns, I wasn't able to pull up Wellesley's town website down here. I don't get great internet connection here in this room. But if you can actually look at some other bylaws from other surrounding towns and things like that and see what they've addressed in theirs. I'm not saying theirs is any better or any
Right,
worse.
right.
At this point, it's sort of a throw it at the wall, see what sticks type of deal for everybody. So what one items are then those that you find are good. Hey, that's a great way to put it. Do we have something like that in ours? And just kind of do that kind of a comparison. We did something similar in engineering and came up with several topics that we don't even address in the bylaw. So is there a place where there might be holes or something that we could be better at? Keeping in mind that the bylaw should be general enough
Right.
to grow, expand, or reduce with the regulations.
Yeah.
So it should be able to go in any direction. So it can't be so specific that we're locked into it for all of eternity.
Right.
Or until the next review happens.
And Trip mentioned that Newton has a pretty good encompassing.
I would say pretty good.
I believe Natick has one.
Divided topic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Natick has one. The EPA website does have a templated, kind of recommended one of what language could be used in that type of thing.
Has this one followed that template at all?
No. The one we currently have has not. It was not,
So
it
would be-
wasn't there.
It would be worth going back to. look at
Yeah.
the-
So we can
It
upload-
wasn't there when we created it.
Gotcha.
It didn't
We
exist.
can upload Beta's template. that
They didn't give us that was for the EPA. That was the template we used.
Beta. Is that from them or is that from EPA?
I believe it came off of them. We made them to forward it to you, but it came off of the website. So I can provide, I think, once we have the team site set up, I can put any documents in there that you feel like you need or request information on or would like to see. I would ask that on Teams, there is an option to chat. Please do not chat with each other on that. There is no discussion outside of that.
Yes, thank you. A good point on any email or any communication. Just people should talk to you, but not to each other, because that's an open meeting
Yes,
violation. So we
Correct.
can't discuss or deliberate online with email.
correct.
So,
But if you want to request me to put in information or find something
Right.
for you and put it in that folder, I'm happy to do so.
But if I'm
And I
on-
will send out on the, I'm sorry, I will send out on the message, the only chat that will be there saying that this had, whatever it is I put on there has been posted. So that people are aware, you get an
Right.
alert that it's happening.
if you send that, but don't reply.
Do
all.
not reply, don't talk to
But if
anyone.
there's items that people want you to put on the agenda.
Yes,
we can-
talk to me. With that. Yeah.
Yeah.
with Kim. Sorry.
But if I have some suggestions, can I send an email to Tom
Yes.
or Kim
Suggestions
say-
for,
or questions about something
Oh,
that maybe
absolutely,
came up
yes.
tonight, just
sure,
so. Yeah, or here's
Questions you can
here's
hear.
a source, here's a report that might be
Yes.
valuable. That's not violating.
That's
anything.
sending information. You can always talk.
You know, I would suggest that I think that CRWA could be a nice one-stop shop for what other Charles River communities are doing with ordinances.
Mhm.
I've actually had a little discussion with Emily and also Zeus Smith, who's the regulatory guy.
Mhm.
So they may already be trying to pull something together because they knew that was a mission here.
Mhm.
But if you want to talk, or if you want me to help out in any way, I think they would be, I think early on, that would be a great briefing to have, would be to have them come over and sort of tell us what they know.
Okay. Can we land that?
Would that be a first step?
sure,
Yeah,
if you
we
would
can-
like it to be, sure. Happy to do whatever you need.
Mentioned Beta, are they the consultants on the implementation side?
For our stormwater permit, they've been working with us on designs and how to achieve the phosphorus removal. Trying to take us 16 years to do it, but
Job security. Yeah, they've been involved with our stormwater and infrastructure for, I don't know how long. a
they're
long time,
also, yes.
15 years at least.
Yeah.
So they've known history from
Late
beginning.
90s. They are going to be looking at our first run at the capacity modeling.
Okay.
So
Is that beta? How do you say that?
beta, BETA,
Beta.
beta, yep.
Like the fish.
Little fighting fish.
Spiny, spiny.
Okay. On the agenda, there's also other stormwater bylaw discussion points. Water infiltration, we've covered some of that, surface runoff.
Yeah, that- I
I'm
think
not
that was
doing
supposed to encompass the suggestion that was sent to us about what we should be going over, whereas we were kind of thinking the first meeting should be kind of laying these ground rules and getting all that stuff kind of
Right,
nailed down, and then you guys can discuss, or you can discuss it now if you want to, but discuss a little bit further once you've figured out who's what in what role in the group.
okay.
I just want to cover the briefly, because these are the types of issues that I've heard residents discuss around capacity.
Right,
And there's this tension between keeping water on the premises, in infiltration systems versus connecting to the stormwater system, and there are trade-offs. And, the town's drain water system does not have the capacity right now to handle everyone's water.
Correct.
Maybe there are some situations, where if you're a very low-lying property or it's on ledge, maybe that's where it should connect to the drain. Maybe we should have guidelines for different types of properties and how.
And
to
in
handle it.
Conservation Commission jurisdiction, we want the water to stay.
Yeah.
Right.
The health of the
Yeah.
wetland depends on it.
So there are different considerations for different properties that we
Mhm.
should be considering. And then I've heard some pumps, not as much for resident concerns, but for the town, some pumps being, instead of the water being pumped into a drain system or an infiltration system, it's being pumped into a sewer system. And that's a problem for the town's infrastructure.
Yes.
In a rain event, then it backs up the sewage system and makes the drain system not function properly.
Correct.
So it's related.
No, all of it is related, and I think the town of Needham could really do a much better education job at
Right.
making sure people understand what the difference is between stormwater quality versus stormwater capacity is. And also a general understanding that the capacity of any storm drain system, any town, any city, any town is never going to be so far above where you need it to be that you have room to grow into it. It's kind of like the way a business would hire people. You hire for the work you have now, you don't hire for the work you have later. And unfortunately, because climate change has made such a drastic difference in the level of water that we're getting, in the level of other random issues that we're having, it's kind of exceeding the capacity way faster than what it might have in years. It might have taken 20 years to exceed capacity previously, and now it takes 10.
Right.
So understanding and being somebody who works in it every day, I'm understanding of it and try to explain it to my friends and family. They don't get it either, but explaining that to a resident whose basement is flooding, that the capacity of the town is not because we haven't done anything. It's just that when we're doing things, we're reacting to what's there, not reacting to what's going to happen in 5 years. So by the time we finish whatever we started here, 5 years from now, it's already changed. It's kind of like your computer's already out of date by the time you buy it.
Right. Yes, I think we have to future-proof.
Correct. Well,
Right.
and future-proofing
Right.
climate change is anybody's guess.
So we could be around forever.
We could.
Yes, so,
When they
No.
clone us, then we could be sitting here 100 years.
so
from
much
now.
of the stuff we saw in the neighborhoods of people just hoping to buy and buy a few minutes and buy a few inches, just so the water doesn't go into the basement. And they
Correct.
could say the water was coming. And then hopefully then enough drain just kicking in.
Right.
But we're never gonna,
We're also surrounded by the Charles River. I mean,
Yeah.
it's an
I know.
enormous river. It's
I
where,
know.
where,
Because
where
And
is it
that
gonna go? Like,
and that was the capacity too.
exactly, exactly.
So we have to,
And also difference between the stormwater and the groundwater, because we were at a few sites where the water's coming into my basement. Well, where's it coming from? I couldn't tell you.
right.
It's coming in from the ground. It's coming up.
That's another issue, how full the aquifers.
Right, yeah. And last summer, everything was full. we were full saturation.
Right.
That was a lot on Maple Street in Oak, right? Maple and Oak.
But they had surface water issues too. But, you know,
Yeah.
On Chestnut Street, I was seeing a lot of groundwater issues.
I mean, I think the public education piece is huge for stormwater.
We'll have to get
It's-
Clay
it's
going
really-
with his stormwater model.
It's such an
Right.
unknown, people understand point
I love that
sources.
little
It took,
So does Clay.
30 or 40 years.
Right.
And now stormwater is the new kid on
I
the
think maybe
block.
he should actually present here too.
The thing is that the
In the
money
committee.
down the road could
I thought he should
potentially
be
be
part of this
enormous.
group,
So
Yeah.
honestly.
better get people understanding
I
what
don't know how
they're
wide
signing
we
up
want to
for.
reach it, so.
I know.
I don't think we can have the committee, but he can definitely attend.
Okay, so
Right.
here, check with the Charles River watershed about.
Yeah, they did models too, right?
Yeah, they did
Yeah.
the.
We have a-
They're,
they
they're
actually-
amazing right now.
We
I think.
participated in the flood model,
Oh, right.
the flood modeling project that they have, and we're
Okay.
actually involved in,
In DPW here, is it?
yes, so the priority site is here at the DPW, right, at Alderbrook.
Okay, yeah.
Trying
that's
to
right.
address some of the areas here. Again, they came up with 5 different, what was it, 5 or 6 different project ideas for the whole area, which is great.
Right.
We can't, number one, fund 6 projects, or number 2, I can't do some of those projects till other things happen. I think, so even though we have a solution,
Right.
and when they say, oh, we have a solution, this is great, and then that's all the public hears, they don't hear about how, well, it needs to be staged, so I can phase it and do these 2 things first, but then I need to do something else. So it's not gonna fix your problem tomorrow.
Right.
It will over time, but then again, the time it takes me to get there, it's already changed again.
You're seeking grant money for that, right?
We are, yes.
Yeah, I feel Charles River Watershed is really, I was with them 20, 30 years ago. But I feel what they're doing now is amazing. I think they're almost way ahead of their time.
Yeah, they're also doing chestnut removal in many of
Yeah,
our
right.
waterways here in town,
Yeah,
which is
we
great.
approved that just the other
Yeah.
day.
I
Yeah.
mean, they're viewed, I've worked with a lot of watershed associations nationally, and CRWA is really the top of the
Is
line
it?
in terms of, they're the oldest,
Right.
you know, back in
They've come a long way
1967.
in
and
30
They
years.
got a quality staff of
Yeah,
over a dozen full-time staff.
yeah, I think they do an amazing job.
I agree.
All right. And then surface runoff, want to talk that, or,
Just briefly, I guess, like, when new buildings are built, sometimes the ground elevation is risen above neighbors.
Yeah.
And that means that water can spread out to neighbors' property, and that's a concern for me.
Yeah. Or block runoff.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, sure, yeah, just change the flow of the water.
I think
Yeah.
that's also why Tom had suggested that maybe some of the, I'm gonna say design, I don't know what it was in there that required it, but that the surveyors are qualified to say what it can be put into someplace, that it really should probably be a professional engineer
correct,
as
Right.
opposed to a surveyor. Like they
Right.
can draw it and make the sizing and it meets everything we have in that, but it's
Right.
not going to overall address what it might do to your neighbors.
right,
Quick question.
Mhm.
So for instance, with capacity, actually, I had a personal experience with a new house next door. I had much flooded, destroyed basement. That's besides the point. Well, it's not besides the point.
It's absolutely the
It
point.
is the point.
Is there, for instance, when you talk about rules for capacity with numbers for grading, is there some way to, I mean, it was because of a grading issue within the bylaw. Can you, or do you put that in the regulations?
I think that would be in the regulation. So I think the bylaw would say something to the effect of, grading cannot adversely impact
And I think
whatever
it
amount
does
of
at
areas,
one point,
whatever.
yeah.
I think it does generally say that,
Generally,
and that should be fine. But
I
then in a
certainly-
regulations is where you would put in there, if the grading is above, blah, 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 you can do this, or it would need to be maintained at this,
But
or
I believe
something like
that's
that.
for lots with over 4,000 square feet of impervious area.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So anything under 4,000, it doesn't say anything.
right.
Exactly.
Is that number okay? If we go,
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the discussion point. I know.
Do you have a ballpark idea of the building permits, how many go above 4,000 square foot? Is that a lot?
I can run a report and tell you,
I'm just curious whether it's
All
a
of
big
them?
part of the picture,
most of them,
Yeah.
over 4,000
Yeah,
Yeah,
square
we
feet
just-
impervious.
yeah.
oh, yeah.
So if
But
I,
is that
all over
additional
4,000 of
or-
additions or a 4,000 of just on a property?
Mhm.
Just on a property.
The most
Most-
common size lot in our community or in this community is between 4 and 8,000 square
But
feet.
how much impervious?
That's what I mean. The impervious
4,000.
area is 4,000 through 8, 4 through 8.
So my notes say
10,000
that
square
since
foot.
2018, we get about 100 building applications that trigger per year, that trigger the stormwater bylaw. And about less than 10% are for new builds under, over 4,000 square feet.
Wow.
And it's all residential,
These are residential.
no commercial.
This doesn't include.
Do you have that deck on the?
Was
I
that-
can add it to
Yeah,
it, yeah.
could you?
That was the presentation he made to the,
Yes.
select board, but I can
Yes,
absolutely
thank you.
add that to the.
And there were some questions on how the people reviewing the bylaw were
Right.
enforcing it
Right.
for a building. So when we looked at some of the stuff, it's like, well, you should be looking at some of these too. So we started to follow back up.
About the ground elevation one, it's interesting that in a design way, in an engineering way, it solves a problem for the property, but it just put it off on everyone else. So it's interesting, a building permit in a weird way has to now look at what the neighbors are gonna suffer too. And I think that's what we're hearing from a lot of people is that houses are built and everyone else pays the consequences.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
Is the new stormwater utility fee, will that enter into the bylaw?
That's a good question, because if there is,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people asking for abatements and such.
I'm sure.
So we had some thoughts, like,
I'm
behind
just
the
thinking of
scenes
big buildings.
talks about if somebody does a little bit
Most of
more
the
than the
questions are not from
bylaw regulation, then
properties
perhaps
at
they're open to get some sort of abatement. Now, if you look online, there's like Newton and Reading and other towns have a process for abatement up to 50, some have up to 25%, 50%, if you do certain things. So maybe if they submit their operation maintenance every year, then maybe they get an abatement. This up for discussion.
Hmm.
I think Dave Davidson asked Ken to look at that as well. So maybe that's an opportunity for us to discuss.
And I know, I've heard from a couple of people who have moved into big houses, a couple of neighbors. Their argument is that, well, we put in this big infiltration system, why should we now pay a? for the
Because the
impervious?
infiltration system and what I've been responding to people when they were questioning their utility bill, your infiltration system is meant to help with the water quality of the first inch of water.
Right.
If we get 4 inches of rain in 2 hours, most of that is not captured in that infiltration system. That infiltration system is there to help with the quality of water. And even though you're doing everything that's required by the size and what we can require based on our bylaw, your property still does produce runoff. I understand that people design their properties with rain gardens and all these wonderful things that are great for the environment, great for keeping your house from flooding and doing things. However, it does not capture everything that comes off of your roof. It does not capture everything that comes off of the driveway. Even pervious pavement is a point of contention because I put in a pervious driveway. That's fine, but a pervious driveway, you still have to compact it in order to put the driveway down, and you're still driving on it, which means that soil underneath, though more pervious than if you put a concrete block on it, is still not absorbing at the same rate that it would be absorbing if nothing was there. So you are still creating runoff, even though you have a pervious thing. It's great for the environment. It's the responsible thing to do. I completely encourage it from everybody. But understand that when you do that, you're not living on a sieve. So it's not likely you're not contributing in some way.
Right.
In addition to that, again, this is what goes back to the education part of it. In addition to that, every resident, you drive to and from your house, you park in a parking lot to go to the bank or the grocery store, you do any of those things, you're contributing to runoff somewhere in the town at some point in your day. And the most equitable way we found to do it was to base it on impervious cover on your property. And some people are not happy about that.
I'm sure. I don't know.
Getting all the questions.
ironically, swimming pools impervious.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know.
It is, because you
Yes,
dig it in
it
the
is.
ground and you cover it. I mean, it's kind of a big hole in the ground. It's not,
So are solar panels.
Well, yes,
Ah, right.
you have to collect.
Where's the irony in that?
some people have asked about decks. I mean, decks are, again, they're more pervious than if you had a brick patio or a solid concrete patio. But the water's still not going into the ground the way it would have if your deck wasn't there.
We always get the argument that it's pervious.
The deck is,
The deck.
but the ground underneath is not receiving the water in the
Yeah,
same
well,
way.
the ground goes
Can I
underneath.
ask about an inch of water?
Yes.
So
I don't know if it's an inch. I forget what the total
Yeah,
is for
it's the
each. Is it
standard
the first
yeah.
inch?
To get
Yeah.
The first flush, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So if you have a 10,000 square foot property,
Mhm.
that means that that property has to absorb 10,000 cubic inches of water? Like it's different by.
No, it's.
No,
only
it's not based on your
over the-
property. It's based on the impervious cover. So if you put on a 200 square foot addition, whatever the square footage is that triggers it, I can't remember the math problem because it gives me after that
Well,
every time
not
I
the
read
fee,
it.
but the bylaw. Like, that's based.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it just says it needs to,
Just on the impervious area.
so it's not your whole property that you have to account for. Although that'd be
Right.
great if you can get that. list. Can you slip that one in?
Okay. Are we good?
All right, so we'll check with the Charles River and we'll try to put together an agenda for next meeting, which will be on.
The 15th.
15th.
Yep, on the
Right.
15th
Are you
at
gonna send
6:30
out a
PM.
calendar invite?
I'm going to send out
Thank
I am
you.
sending out a schedule. I am setting up the team site. I am sending out a schedule. I am setting up, putting in the documents that were requested in this meeting. And I will put together a template agenda and I can send that to Kevin and John to kind of review and see if that agenda is acceptable for you. And if so, forward that along to the powers that be. And then I will also look into reserving this room and this space for that time and having the Zoom meetings all set up.
Thank you.
Sure.
Oh,
That's-
I'm not actually here.
Silent partner.
I'm a silent partner. I'm not actually
I didn't
here.
I didn't hear a word. All right,
It was very silent.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
A second.
All right.
I
All
third.
right, all those in favor? Yeah,
Everybody.
all right.
Great.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Should I get you a bag of groceries?
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
kidding. I could have gone and had
Wastewater
dinner if I wanted to. I just didn't.
We don't-
Yes,
okay.
and I-
Uh,